Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's a little book club for music. It's a fun time I had by all. I'm Petey Rave, and this podcast is my son, which means I'm its dad, or its mom, or whatever. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew, my gang, my posse. We've got David.
I'm not going to reference the album or the artist we're talking about.
We've got Brett.
So I'm learning that Los Ice Creams had a former member that was Glacier. So I need to find actual footage of legally discernible Sub-Zero hang out with Ice Cream Jr. and the son of Ice Cream.
Yes.
King of Trios 2009.
Yeah.
That was the moment I fell in love with Chikara. That was the moment.
I literally just learned that when you called me Petey, so you know, because Glacier. We appreciate the show.
And we've got Drew.
He said Los Ice Creams, but when he said Los, I thought he was going to say Los Lobos, and I was real confused.
Yes.
You never know what I'm going to say.
How far is heaven, Brett?
Yeah. All right. Right now, we're definitely not close to heaven, but we're doing our best. We're here to talk about an album. Talk about some music, talk about an album provided by David. David, what have you brought for the group this week?
I have brought the self-titled debut album from 2019, keeping to my word of dragging the Record Breakers podcast out of the 90s, from 2019 by British rapper AJ Tracey. Self-titled debut album.
Let's talk about expectations. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
You know, as the Record Breakers hip hop specialist, especially of that across the pond, I was well familiar with this album. This is not something I was familiar with. I Googled, there was a lot of information, and I came into this with a little bit of regional, that kind of stuff, but as I will go into further when we get to the themes and elements, this is a little different. This is a stretch for old Brett. I have to flex some muscles that I didn't know I had.
Yeah. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, he said relatively modern. When he said he would bring this, and he was bringing this out of the 90s. So modern for DJ lately has been vapor and retro wavy at times. Not what I got. He also tends
Stop trying to predict my stuff. I don't even know what I'm doing half the time.
Well, that's progressive music,
man.
Progressive lyrics.
When I have no idea what the name is you're throwing at me, and there's one dude on the cover, there's one way I tend to go. I was way wrong on that. This was a lot grimier than I was expecting.
But not as much.
Hey, we're white people from the Midwest, Drew. We should caveat that for audio people that can't tell.
Yes. So when he said London rapper, in that moment, while I was still remembering what he was saying, I had some expectations, and then I forgot, and then I started listening to it, and then I went into it, and I had some expectations of what things, once I heard the accent, what I was going to go into once I got into the rest of the album. I was expecting the grime and the garage.
The garage.
The garage.
Garage. It's garage. It's
Big
UK garage.
Are you going to go to your motor carriage?
But it is. But I there was a lot of it that I didn't expect, and it made up a big chunk of the center of the album. But I was expecting the Grime in the Garage, but I didn't expect where it went other than that. But let's talk about what it is musically. David, how would you describe this album musically?
Big man tings, proper gangster, you feel me, blood? But seriously, I think generally, I find myself almost accidentally gravitating towards British hip hop, just generally when I'm in that mood. Stormzy, Dizzy Rascal, of course, everyone knows Dizzy Rascal, and I guess maybe just on accident.
Name I've heard many times.
And just by accident, I kind of stumbled upon AJ Tracey, and it was one of the songs on this album. I'm Doing It, and it was just like, oh, this is pretty good. And I just felt like generally everything about this album had all of the things you can enjoy with hip hop right now. Also with that British flavor that's very unique to the UK, which I really, really like in terms of beats, in terms of production, in terms of vocal delivery. That's very unique to the UK that I really, really like. Also, he is Trini. His background is from Trinidad, so there's a little bit of an accent in his voice in that regard as well, and just how he delivers things and how he flows. And I just really enjoyed this album start to finish. I enjoyed him as an MC. I just really thought he was really good. The producers are creative, and he doesn't seem out of place on any of the songs, and I just think it works really well.
All right, well, let's go to you guys for this album musically. Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, as the most Caucasian of us all, as the
challenge accepted.
I will lay out the caveats. I'm the well-meaning Caucasian. I'm the good one.
Wow, I'm not the good. Okay.
You're the Italian.
I'm glad I got I'm glad I got a giggle. This is about as far as what I normally go to for music. It's more minimalistic than like albums with full bands or digital versions of them. It's mostly focused on the beat and the lyrics, and there's synths that hang out like in the middle, like in between them, like in the mix. I'm personally attracted to music that has more of a groove and a well-crafted hook first and foremost. Then I am like, let's say, a lyrics heavy, like pouring the emotions in. So that's the point where Brett has to exercise new muscles, because I'm not a lyrics guy as much. I'm more of like, oh, that's a clever turn of phrase, or the vocals relate to the music in a certain, like, as the pitch. And halfway through the album, I was like, okay, I've got to get the lyric sheet out. Like, this is something where you got to read, like, because there's also a lot of rhymes that use homophones, like, so you're gonna have to understand what I'm a farmer, I got carrots, like, you're gonna have to read that's spelled with a K and not a C. He's not Bugs Bunny. He's got gold. Yeah, it's not so much that, but there's other stuff that if I was going to be reductive, I would say that this is hip hop that's cartoonishly over the top, self-aggrandizing poetry that boasts about sex and money and doing rich people shit. But like, that there's more there is that, but obviously there's more to it than that. Yes, you will know going into this if you're into this style of hip hop, like the dropping names of products and casinos and like other things, and like the way that the lyrics, like at the end of every line, there's like, a lot of times in most of the songs, there's sort of a second voice that's slightly more subdued, speaking on the upbeat before the end of the, there's the slap back, like it's like the echo back, which I can understand. And like, I'm gonna say that, like, the lyrical content is what it is. Like, it's fine. Like, I have no problem with that. But when I get into the songs, I will talk about the things that I really liked about this. But I do want to take a little section to talk about, anytime I hear music written by people who are not from America and they're speaking about firearms, It's sad. Like, this is a sad thing about America. Like, I find it quaint. Like, I like I just like, that is a thing that I do not, outside of the borders of my hillbilly existence. I'm like, that takes me out of it breaks the wall for me. And like, okay, I'm sort of pulled out, and that drags me away from, that is my thing. But when,
for everyone out there scoring at home, in London terms, that's the pumpy.
Yeah, I like, the old pumpy. It's Thomas the Tank Engine's worst friend. No, it's regional. It's like a thing, but like it is something that draws me out of it. But like also the talk about spraying and she spraying, like there's a lot of explicit sex talk in this album that also made me like, this is, while I was reading along, I was like, it's a chortle time, but I am an old white Midwestern American. So like, take that as it is. But there are a lot of things that I have to talk about when we get into songs that I like.
Yeah.
And sorry, Drew, I took all the white people words.
Yeah. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
What was your sproing on this album?
Right.
My sproing was the weird, I'm pretty sure it was NES samples that were used. One of them almost definitely won because of the title of the track, because it was a deluxe album. No. The thing about this is grime specifically, which this dabbles in a lot in tonality, is something that like I never really search out, but I always kind of dig. So uninitiated, England has a subgenre of rap that's sort of pretty much all its own. I feel like I don't know anyone anywhere else in the world that's doing grime. It is
in English. There might be some French grime out there that we're really missing out on.
I'm 99% sure that there is.
Not in America. There is no American grime hip hop that I know of. No. If there is listeners out there, please send it to me.
Other than like a few of the, there's probably at least a few, let's say teaboos in hip hop that probably at least like are influenced by it. But yeah, they've been not.
That's what I was gonna say. There's like, you get a song maybe, but like,
yeah.
The thing about that is the like darker tonality of it is always interesting to me, as somebody who in hip hop over here usually tends towards not bright, I don't want to say, but like tonally higher. I tend towards stuff that usually doesn't deal with the same things that he is dealing with. I tend towards.
What do you tend towards, Drew?
I want to say like, it's stuff when for his problems notwithstanding. I'm one of those. I like old Kanye. Kendrick, like Chance, that sort of stuff. It's very much the stuff when I was like, I don't like hip hop, that the lyrics were what threw me off. But there's something to this that I really dug. And I think it comes with that tonality, which is why I upfronted the grime so much. There's also a lot in this. When you're talking about country and using 808s, it's weird. Mm-hmm. But like I'm okay with it. Like I'm always, like I've said before, I'm in for juxtaposing things. I usually get that from my ska, not from my hip hop. But
is there a ska song about rural America? Like I want to hear. Yeah,
I'm sure there are tons.
I want to say, who is it? Who am I thinking of? I will get back to you on that.
Yes, please do. And email fans. Email me with your country music mashups.
There's Swinging Utters at least, no, but they're not full on ska.
The band I was in had a song about how great the Midwest was.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, and I was there.
Yeah, you're in the damn band. Yeah.
It's probably part of my streaming music playlist that I don't use it often.
Oh yeah, no, anybody out there that streams, we're not coming after you because
Feel free to pick it up.
We haven't even looked at if we have anything in that bank account anymore. But that aside,
sorry,
there's a lot of mixing going on around here that I think is really, really cool and adds a lot to the music, which I think kept me interested a lot more than, say, 70% of the lyrics did. But it was good flow. I can't knock him for that.
Yeah.
It just, it's about partying and doing the sex, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like Master
it's
P
also
existed.
going to Mandalay Bay.
And I like sex.
I'm not saying I don't like those things, but I don't like 80s hair metal and Master P exists. So like I don't like Ludacris
we lived
is there.
through Ludacris. Ludacris is like the example that like our generation. It's like
I guess
he's
I'm
playing
just
a character.
I'm a late bloomer.
It's good, but does he have a gold tank? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is Mystical sitting on that hoop?
I don't know. Yeah. So as talking about this album musically, we do bring up the concept of grime, and then grime has been a scene that's been around for a couple decades, several. I'm gonna say several
most of
decades.
our lives.
Yeah,
25 years or so.
Yeah,
20.
a while. I mean, like I'm gonna say
Mid
more than
90s.
that.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of different artists like moving. It is like born of like a lot of different styles that go in there. It's born if you look it up, and I'm looking up. These are sounds I had to look up all this stuff as far as like be able to like organize the names and thoughts, but it's connected to like UK garage, like I said. That's more like the dance side, where grime is more the hip hop side, but they're very interconnected. It brings in a lot of things from like dance hall and things like that. And you see that in this album, and this album has that, but it also reflects kind of like, and what I've been looking at, again, this is all from like looking up and researching, looking at reviews, from what I've seen there and from what I hear in this album, this reflects a wanting to incorporate newer styles and rip away from just being purely grime rappers. Like I think people like Greg David have shied away from pure grime and gone to like R&B and soul and things like that. This has an odd mix where everybody talked about grime. When we talk about UK grime and garage, that is part of this record, but it's very also just modern hip hop. There's a lot of like elements of like modern 2019 modern hip hop, 2019 like trap. And we'll talk about the Yeehaw energy when we get into specific tracks, but that's very 2019 like if you really think about it. And
it was long before White Boy Summer.
You're riding that horse down the old
yeah.
But it's
That's the rural American.
He jumps in and AJ Tracey's trying to explore a lot of different styles, incorporating like we said, he's Trinidadian, so he's bringing in the soca. He's bringing a lot of that from there. He's also bringing in a lot of the UK grime and garage, but he's also bringing in like trap and American hip hop. And there's
Latin percussion all over this album.
There's Latin percussion, but there's also focusing on what is also teaming in there. There's a roller coaster ride for me that happens at the beginning of this throughout this album. The beginning is like, oh, this is interesting, and then it feels like at some point the album takes its first cup of lean, and then
it brings the digital timbales out, and then you're like, whoa.
See,
does that, but then it brings
that, I think.
But then it kind of like delves deep into some like some styles, and we'll talk about like the specific tracks and all where that roller coaster ride, and then just like wakes up at the end, like at the last few tracks, and then just like sprints to the end. So, which is a very interesting like pacing to the album musically. I have to say, and we'll. I'll stop there. I'll say that's where like the music, because I wanted, let's go into like the key tracks. David, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on?
Some of the tracks that I particularly enjoyed on this album were actually at the latter half, and you always love when the second half of an album comes strong. So I'm going to mention track 12, which was Horror Flick, and track 14, which was the final track on the regular album, Triple S. Also, Wifey Rhythm, track number 4. The vibe is different in a lot of ways from the rest of the album, but it's solid. And I'll just mention Country Star because it's different, but it's not Old Town Road, but it is kind of different.
Yeah. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, I like Wifey Rhythm Tree. If I got that, Wifey Rhythm Tree. I want to point out the use of the word John, Jawn, John. If we had our pal the Swagger around, that is a word that is used in Pittsburgh as well. It is a filler word. It's like Smurf. It's an word. And they make a giant guitar pedal called the John knob that is just one knob that you turn, and I don't remember what the John knob is, but it worked for rhyming.
Word?
Yeah, it's anything you want it. Like, go Smurf yourself.
Yeah.
Like an or like a that sort of thing.
Well, John, like I am. This is NPR's Away with Words, and we're going to talk about linguistics. But John, it's a word to look up. JAWN. It's a thing, and I didn't know about it until guitar pedals, and I'm happy that somebody used it as a rhyme. Like it John. Like that is one of those things where you look at the lyric sheet and you're like, oh, okay. Psych out! ! The throwback synths and the stereo bloops, fantastic. There is a pre-chorus on that track where there's a key change that makes it very, very hooky. Also, Naruto. Butterflies, Latin percussion, and a synth grab bag. Like it's like they have a delay that's on like, it almost sounds like a mixture between like a marimba and a steel drum. And it's used other places in the album. There's also a synthesized wind, like a pan flute, and some ASMR level of clarity on the guiro. Like you can hear, it's like it makes your hair stand on end. It's like cuts through the mix so well. But there's like that's where I really like wish I had more of a percussion background to be able to describe. Also, I want to talk about how like Ladbroke Grove, like whenever I heard Grove, I was thinking of the like place in the Midlands. No, the Midlands of of England where Williams Racing is, kind of known for like Grove is a very out there place where there's nothing but people who make race cars in Formula One. So when he's talking about Grove, I was thinking about the town Grove.
Nerd, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so I consume more British stuff than I let on. Like, I will tell you all about King's Lynn and like the best brown sauce that you can have. But Ladbroke,
HP.
I mean, those were the people that saved Williams for a little while, I think. But Ladbroke Grove. So Deej, I come to you often. I say this. I feel like I'm in a Sega arcade when I hit some of these styles of music because Sega was in Japan were really big on putting that kind of a beat in. But
Sega was even bigger in Europe and in the UK.
Oh, the Mega Drive.
The Mega Drive was.
Yeah.
And like also like, and they love to put synthesizers in those Sega machines.
Yeah.
But the vocal energy and the tone, because I'm me, reminded me of Buck Bumble, but with actual lyrics and rhymed like a 90s dance hip hop act. Like, I don't want to bring up Hammer. I really don't want to bring up Hammer, but when you talk about
hurt him.
A dance 90s act with a man doing the like, it's a dance thing.
How about Digital Underground, Brett?
We
Digital
will
Underground
get
is the
to Digital
vibe.
Underground. I don't know that I need to take my time before we get to Digital Underground, because I can't just do all of the albums that white people know. Like, we got to do other things. But also, there's a Metroid warble effect that's in that song as well. Like, there's a synth that has this warble that reminds me of, like, it's not just Metroid. Danny B did a lot on Crypt of the. I'm talking about 3 different video games on this one song. Danny B from Crypt of the Necrodancer kind of had this warble. Yeah. I give it 2 thumbs up. Let's just end it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot you can dig out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, Plan B, again, start doing the me thing. But starting with a song like this, one, tonality is great. Have we not brought up? Sorry, side chat's happening, and I can't believe
we've only done this podcast for a decade. Like, you know,
Yeah.
we're new.
The song is great. Also, at times he's playing with the stereotype a little bit. While he's drinking bottles, he's very much saying, like, hey, the drugs I'm not interested in, but, like, get me drunk as fuck.
And give me the sex.
Yeah.
Let's bone. That's my drug.
I mean, the name of the track is Plan B. So, Country Star. This is the song I was talking about with 808s and guitar on it. Say what you want about Old Town Road. That was a phenomenon. And if this is where it goes, instead of more people leaving Old Town Road, I think I'm more on this train than I am on that road. And then 2 tracks. One, Zelda, of course, on the deluxe version. And Horror Flick. There is a sample on Horror Flick, and I can't place it, but I know I've heard it before. I really wish I knew. But I'm getting the video game vibe. Like, it sounds like something off of, like, Nightmare on Elm Street for, like, the NES or something, which would make a lot of sense.
It is NES. That's definitely an NES sound.
I know, but I can't place the game.
It's like Zelda 2 almost. But yeah, it's late NES. I'm with you.
Yeah, like, I was like, is that Nightmare on Elm Street? And I literally went on YouTube, like, trying to find, like, I can't find the whole thing, but I found bits and pieces. I'm like, it's kind of it, but not it. I don't know. So
it's cartridge. It's not disc. So we got her that far.
It's definitely NES or
it has to be.
Maybe early SNES, but I'm thinking more NES. And then there's this track called Zelda. I'll give you a hint where that sample came from.
Sonic and Knuckles.
That's right.
No, Vector Man, actually. Weirdly enough. It was Vector Man, big green guy with balls all over him that shot.
Great game.
Oh, no, it was great.
Hey, when you don't want to animate the in-betweens, just put some balls out there.
One of the, like, first things I remember about playing a Sega... This is a weird tangent.
Yeah,
but one of the first things about the Sega Genesis I remember is the Vector Man Sega Splash, because you always had a Sega Splash. Mm-hmm. And if you were real fancy, your Sega Splash did stuff. In the Vector Man one, if you started fucking around with the controller, you could move Vector Man around and, like, shoot the Sega logo and, like, jump and stuff. It was dope. And I remember doing that, and my mind was blown. I was like, holy shit, this is happening.
So, kids, we're old as fuck. If you
haven't noticed, we're picking out random NES samples.
Speak for yourself. I'm the one that picked the album from 2019.
White people age at a different rate. Let's just deal with this right now. Deej, I'm sorry.
I was literally moisturizing 10 minutes ago.
I mean, you know what? We weren't, and that's why.
I brought Black Star.
And for the video watchers, that's actually not a joke. I was moisturizing.
No.
That reminds me.
No, we did David Bowie's album Black Star. We did not do the Most Def album.
We did not do Most Def and Pal
This is different. This is different.
This is about the same. Yeah.
But yeah, as you were saying, Drew.
Oh, no. That was the end.
Okay, that was the
my
end.
final.
Yes, and Drew, come on,
Yes.
let's get more content here.
Yes. All right. Let me get down to this. Because I'm gonna go back on this roller coaster ride. I'm not gonna talk about every track, but I'm gonna talk about
Please do.
the stops. I
You're the most British, like, tuned person right now because of your consumption of entertainment.
Yeah. It starts off really cool, and I was vibing with the beginning, and a track like Jackpot I think was really fun, and came in with hearing his accent and hearing like the grime style of like wordplay, word and flow and things like that. But this time working and with the style of the production, which is evident by the fact that it's an American producer, with a different production style than you normally hear from like a grime song, was cool. And I was like, okay, this is a nice like deviation, a nice mix. And they would, as tracks go along, Wifey Rhythm 3 was fun. It was just that nice like dance hall. It's funny when you say Latin percussion, but it's, and I think that's the name for it. But it's more accurate to say Afro-Caribbean percussion.
It's not Italian.
It's not Spanish. It's not Latin, because Latin came from Europe. But I mean, it's called Latin percussion, but I get that. But it's Afro-Caribbean, and that's why it makes sense. It comes from all those places. It comes from like, he's from Trinidad, and it's fantastic. It just has that really cool like party feel. But I would say, as you get into, you feel it a little bit in Double C's. Country Star was fun, and like it was novel. It was a nice little departure. But you start to hear the trappings, and then it really shows up in Psych Out. And I'm gonna be honest, at Butterflies, Necklace, and Prada Me was a trio of songs that almost had me check out of this album. I just did not like anything about the vibe, and on subsequent listens to, I just skipped them. And I think like it was like a deep dive that it was starting to lose me up until we hit Ladbroke Grove. Ladbroke Grove brings back the UK garage and brings back like that excitement, that danceable feel, and that sprints to things like Doing It, and which is also fantastic, and the other tracks brings that back, that energy, and almost makes me feel like, man, I wish more of this album was this. And it's odd that you have to get to the, and David said that it was a nice change of pace to see like the highlight of the album being the at the end, but it feels weird to have to wait for the hype in an album. But like it's banger after banger once you get to Ladbroke Grove. Like, Doing It is fantastic. Nothing But Net is fun, and it's modern. It has a modern style to it, but it is fantastic. Still bringing that grime. Horror Flick is fun and novel, and has when it first came up, I was like, are we getting into chip hop? Like, are we like, is UK all up in chip hop like nowadays? And like that was fun, and it caps off really nicely, at least the one I listened to with Triple S, and it does it well. But it was that roller coaster ride that took me on from those beginning tracks, and but I loved those last few tracks. Like that whole 11 to 15 was fantastic. It's just that middle was where it delved from okay to, oh God, this is am I gonna have to sit with this, and it had to win me over. But yeah, let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about conclusion on this album. Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I mean, this isn't something that I would ever like run into in any other way than this show, and that's cool. Like there's a lot of things that
What do you run? regularly, Brett?
That's a great question. What the hell do I listen to that's like been made in
What is
what
Brett?
am I? Well, other than things that live in the 1990s, the things that become we'll get to that in a coin flip. But you know, this was educational. Like I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to music because like I don't know. Like I don't make assumptions about stuff. And like once I got through, I was like, okay, these aren't probably the most progressive lyrics that have ever been written. And like it's not exactly the thing that I'm into, but I can understand like the beat, the hook, the use of phrasing, and like the way that it's used musically. But again, like this is an album that was probably not directed at white people in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm okay with that. And I'm glad that I have that as like another dose. So it's not just like me pulling off the like, you know, the 3 British rappers that everybody knows in America. So like this, it's great. Like this is educational. But is it something that I would say that I would like, hey grandma, hey, listen to this. Your kids are gonna love this.
You don't know.
Grandma who knows?
Might be into.
Hey, Helen might be into that.
Old school.
That's right.
Two-step or some classic dubstep. You never know.
You know what? Maybe. I want to see what Drew's conclusions are.
Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
This is one of those albums where not everything hit for me, but the ones that did hit are really phenomenal to me. This is going to be something where Horflix is going to make it on one of my playlists. I'm sure of that. It's something where I would have never known about this artist had it not been for this show. And it's going to be an artist where if I see their next album come out, I'm going to be interested. Is it something I would normally gravitate towards? Probably not. But it's interesting, and it's doing cool stuff in the genre, which I think is super important. I think that a lot of times, especially in the more mainstream genres, there tends to be like big shifts. You get like big like changes in like, oh, you had like for a while in like say hip hop, you had a lot of Ludacris and Master P and like the party anthem like Jay-Z era. But then it like switched and there was
Side
a lot
mirrors,
less of that.
Flap like a bird.
But you don't see as much of people like just doing interesting things in the space a lot of time, and I think that this does interesting things in the space.
We are not new to hearing people talk about hotels. We have been to the Holiday Inn.
Yes. My conclusion on this album, I think this album is doing a lot of things well for itself, for its path to success. It's blending one of the things you see in like reviews that it's blending a little bit of the past, a little bit of the present, a little bit, you know, what he wants to do for the future. Past and present of UK hip hop, doing the grime, doing the garage, yeah, but also bringing in the trap, bringing the modern styles of 2019. Big things, and I think not all of it hit with me, and not all of it was successful with me, but a lot of it was, and there's a war in my head of two things. I'm not really one to tell other people what to do in music. I mean, I don't do music or what they shouldn't explore, varying styles. But man, there was a part of me that wishes that, man, if there was like just an album of AJ Tracey doing like 10 grime bangers, and I stole this from the bit picture, I think from a review, but the idea came in my head. I read that and was like, yeah, if it was just like did like 10 grime bangers, that was the album, man, that would be dope. Like if he was just doing like, and he has the skills to do it, with plenty of like those dance hall like beats and plenty of those plenty of like the UK garage influence. If he did that, that would be dope. But that is a style that has been done a lot, and people are trying to deviate from that and explore other sounds and not be stuck in the UK rappers all do grime, and that's what they do. They do these same songs, the same style, and that's what they do. So as much as my head, like, man, this would be the record that I would vibe with, I can't fault him for wanting to explore mixing that up. As much as some of it doesn't always hit with me, because I think there was some modern production work in there, even with the grime songs, that I think worked really well. So I'm looking. The main thing that it has me looking forward to is this was 2019. This is what hit his debut album. He's coming out with a new album in April. The Flu album, I think it was called Flu Game. I will check that album out, and I look forward to seeing that album, because I want to see what, and I also should check out his like mixtapes and mini albums, because there's more to just like what he doesn't disappear into a vacuum and then reappear with an album. There's other things to explore, but I'm looking forward to what that sounds like. David, what is your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Well, I think as undeniably and unquestionably the most debaucherous person on this podcast in 2021, I have a certain level of appreciation for some of the subject matter and lyrics, probably more than everyone else here. So that I really didn't mind. I felt like pretty much every track on this album I got something out of one way or another. It was pretty solid and enjoyable for me from start to finish. I love AJ Tracey's delivery. I love his flow as a rapper. I absolutely love it. And what I saw on this album is a guy that was comfortable in any style of hip hop. And I really respect that. And I just feel like he's really, really talented as a rapper. There's enough of the familiar kinds of British hip-hop tropes on this album that people know and appreciate, while you also see him challenging himself, challenging the listener, and I can always respect that. It may not work for you. It did for me. I really enjoyed a lot of the production, and a lot of the beats are all over this album. I really, really... As far as a hip-hop album goes, I would say this might be the most I've enjoyed a complete hip-hop album, start to finish, in a really long time. And I really got a kick out of it. And I'm really excited for his next album. And it's coming out very soon. I'm really excited for it.
Mm-hmm. As am I. Yeah. Those are our thoughts on AJ Tracey's self-titled debut. Now we get to the main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for, the haiku reviews, where we sum it all up.
Haiku numero uno.
Yes. Where we sum it all up.
We bring it alive in the 575.
Hell
That's
yeah.
right.
Let's do the damn thing. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haiku numero uno. Brett, what is your haiku?
I certainly like to move it. Music from the Grove. Educational for me. I see something here.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what is your haiku?
Rap from Great Britain, and it is worth a listen. Sharks have a big fin.
Yes. Some obscure Cockney rhyming slang. Yeah, I gotta look it up. Grime, garage, and trap. Did not love whole thing, but he's destined for success. And last but not least, David, what is your haiku?
All right, let me get this before the ambulance goes away. London hip-hop fans really seem to dig this guy, and I do as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is our collective thoughts on AJ Tracey's AJ Tracey. You can of course find this album on our Spotify playlists at this point. We actually have 2 playlists because I still can't I can't drag and drop podcast episodes onto playlists yet. But I could do it. It is the weirdest thing. I could do it on mobile, but I can't do it on desktop. But I do it by going to the podcast episode and say add to playlist. But I can't drag and drop them. So when I dragged and dropped them from the placeholder playlist that I made, doing all the work of like album playlist, all I got was all the albums. So instead of doing that work again and leaving an empty playlist for people, and just like I already did the work. We have Record Breakers: A Home Game, which is just the albums, and now it's completely updated and accurate with no missing playlists as long as they're not missing. There are no missing albums as long as they're not missing from Spotify. And we also have Record Breakers: The Playlist, which is all the albums plus the most recent 300 episodes slotted in where appropriate. The 300 is a limitation of Squarespace and their RSS, but you'll be able to still follow along, and it's a way to kind of like have it all in one place so you can follow along with the show. Just go from album to play the episode, album to episode. If you'd like, if you want to go back and catch up and binge, just be kind to our early episodes, because it was early recording equipment, early times of me being a podcast host. So just be kind. But yeah, Spotify playlists. On those Spotify playlists will be next week's record, and that's going to be provided by Brett. Brett, what have you got for us? By
Deej. Give me heads or tails. Heads being hard, tails being soft.
I'll call it in the air. Tails.
All right. I'm going to call the opposite of you. I'm going to say we're going to go with Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
Ah, all right.
Yeah.
We haven't been there for a while. We need to stay on the island. Stay within the Commonwealth.
So yeah, so look forward to that. Look forward to us talking about Iron Maiden.
Not the 90s, Deej. Not the 90s. Didn't do the 90s.
80s.
I almost brought Hootie and the Blowfish.
Yes.
But Number of the Beast it is.
Let her cry.
We're going backwards.
Yeah, we're going backwards.
No, we're going
Look forward to that.
The tears fall down like rain.
I also don't know enough Darius Rucker albums to bring one of those. I thought about it, but I was not educated enough.
He's way better at country than he fuck. God,
and we will find out about that
in the future
when the sun comes up to marry. Yeah, sorry.
Look forward to that next week, but that'll be next week, and this is this week, and you can of course find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Brett is at HeyBDBird, at BBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at X2for I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. We stream every week 4 or 5 times a week, depending on what I want to do Mondays. But Tuesdays we do Dungeons and Dragons. Wednesdays we do Record Breakers. Obviously we're here. Thursdays we do Space Truckin'. We do Starbound, some fun times there. Friday I do a Let's Play. I actually ended the Control playlist just because that was unwatchable with my computer setup. It was a slideshow. Yeah. But yeah. PD Plays is on Friday. But yeah, this week I'm going to start a new playthrough, which is Tales of the Elements. It's a video game based on a nerdcore album. So it's like a Japanese RPG based on a nerdcore album. So check that out. And then sometimes I do other things on Mondays. But yeah, follow, like, share, do all the things. Check out all the things. Until next time, Hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Rebelli Podcast. Baby.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.